Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. You know, one question I ask every guest on Everyday Martial Artist is about their favorite martial arts book. And there's never been one quite like Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, described as the art of war for the martial arts. Martial Theory helps any martial artist or instructor take their understanding and teaching to the next level. And at martialtheoryU.com, you'll find a global community with instructor groups, Q&A with Steve, live events, and demonstrations to help you apply martial theory directly to your training. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Find Martial Theory on Amazon, and when you join martialtheoryU.com, use discount code EverydayMA for 20% off. That's under $20 a month for life. That's martialtheoryU.com, code EverydayMA. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts and sometimes other stuff they're involved in. My guest today is a Canadian self-defense instructor, author, and speaker who focuses on practical, real-world personal safety. He teaches a timeline-based approach to self-defense that prioritizes awareness, decision-making, and avoiding violence whenever possible, with effective physical skills as a last resort. Known for his direct style and myth-busting approach, he trains civilians and professionals to better understand violence and make safer choices before, during, and after an encounter. His path carried him from running a successful adult martial arts gym to working nightclub security and eventually managing a high-risk security operations and VIP protection across Alberta. In those environments, theory met reality, and the gaps in traditional self-defense became clear. Over the past 2 decades, he's delivered training and spoken in 14 countries and more than 80 cities, working with First Nations communities, corporations, law enforcement, and everyday people. His timeline of self-defense model has since been adopted worldwide. A published author, respected voice in personal safety, his mission is simple: help people build safer lives without fear, ego, or hype, just honest, effective strategies that work. Please welcome my guest today, Randy King. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I also want to know what Randy King follows that bio. That's the one we sent you? That's really good.
Yeah, that's part of the one. I also found one on your website too and kind of combined the two. So
wow, I want to listen to me now. That's probably not good for my ego, but that was a great bio. Thank you, Brian.
Hey, my pleasure. I tell all my guests, I want the bio. The intro needs to sound good because that's when so many, I think I read somewhere it's like 70% of podcast listeners, if the intro isn't good to an interview, they're going to stop listening immediately. They won't even wait for the guest to speak. So I try to make the intro as good as I can and make sure the listeners stick around. And that's one cool thing I tell my guests who ask, and especially, you mentioned you do a podcast too, but I check my stats and it's 94% of my listeners listen to 100% of my episode. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's like I get them in and they stick around and the guests keep them listening and they listen. That 6% probably just don't listen to the canned intro and outro. Otherwise they probably listen to the whole thing anyway. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the results.
I do not blame you. That was great.
Well, I know you said you've listened to a few episodes. You know how we kick it off. But what I want to do is that, I mentioned you're a lifelong martial artist, but I want to know where it started. I want to know where that first interest came from in martial arts, kind of that spark that kicked off your martial arts journey.
Absolutely. So this is the part where a guy with a bio like me gives you like some dark secret story of why I got into martial arts. Sadly, I don't have that. I was a chubby asthmatic child and I really liked the Power Rangers. So nice. I grew up in the Power Rangers generation. I'm a Green Ranger hater. I don't want your emails about it. I don't like them. But I watched the Power Rangers as a kid and I was like, hey, those guys don't get bullied. Maybe I should learn that kicking stuff. And so I was the most obnoxious child you could imagine. I grew up very poor, so disposable income wasn't a thing, and martial arts lessons are not free.
Right.
So for a year, I begged and I pleaded and I was obnoxious. And then my grandmother was finally like, I've never heard this kid talk about something this consistently. I'm going to pay for these lessons. And they put me into Taekwondo because I am from Edmonton, Alberta. And before BJJ was a thing, we were the #1 per capita region in Canada for Taekwondo schools. You could not throw a rock without hitting a Taekwondo school.
Nice.
So I went to a Taekwondo school in a community hall and went from there.
So did you get to pick the school? Did your grandma pick the school?
It was very much based on industry talk of a pull radius. Like, what is the closest thing to our house? Because
that's probably 60% of people. It's relation to how close it is. So I get that.
Correct. And that's exactly what it was. So no, I didn't get to pick. I didn't even get to pick the art. And also I was like 10. I didn't know any different. And you go to a Taekwondo gym or a karate gym and it looks like it's supposed to, right? You got your belt and you got the lines and you got the kiosks. So I was happy.
Okay. So how long did you stay at that first school?
I still I'm not with the school right now, but I literally had lunch with my first instructor before this interview.
Wow.
I stick around with a lot of stuff like that, but I stuck in Taekwondo until I turned I definitively know when I quit. Yeah. I was 19 years old when I stopped doing primarily Taekwondo.
Wow. So then, you said you started at around 10. So when you got to that age where you could have made the decision to walk away possibly sooner from Taekwondo, what was it about that school, that instructor that drew you and made you want to keep going to that specific school during the, obviously like high school, kids are involved in a lot of different things, whatever. What made you want to keep doing it, through those teen years? Well,
there's a great saying in the martial arts world, which is the reason you start is not the reason you stay.
Yep.
So I didn't stay for I'm not trying to talk poo-poo about Taekwondo here. But Taekwondo was more of a cultural thing for me. And when I mean culture, I don't mean Korean. I meant the people in the room.
Yeah.
And so the instructor was great. Like I mentioned, we're still friends now. The people I was training with was great. And also back then it was pre cell phone for sure. So it was just, I didn't know any different, right? I just stayed with it because that's what you did. You joined and then you stayed to get your black belt. And then, you open a gym and you go through whatever system they have in place.
And did you get involved in competition during that time?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Our gym. So everybody says, our gym was different and whatever, but our gym was different and whatever. There was a mandatory competition component.
Really?
In order to level up and get your belts.
I don't think I've ever heard that before about a Taekwondo school having mandatory competition. Interesting.
It was neat. I really liked it. And it was cool because I was, like I mentioned, I was a overweight asthmatic child and I wasn't the bravest kid on the planet for sure. So being forced to do those things, I'm sure nowadays it would be considered child abuse. But back then, I really appreciated the fact that I was forced to go into those slow drip adrenaline situations to learn how to control, my emotions and deal with stress and that sort of stuff.
And did that help you then with weight too? How many times a week were you doing it and stuff and the physical activity?
Oh, I don't do anything. I use my whole butt for everything. I don't do anything with half of it. So I was training nonstop. I was this is, I guess, a brag. I don't mean it to be, but when I first joined, my instructor, he kind of had my number. I was an angry kid. I didn't stick with anything. And he told me that I would never get my yellow belt because I was too out of shape. And I was that kind of person who was like, oh, I'll show you, thinking I was doing something, but that was his intent the whole time. So I got my yellow belt faster than anybody had ever got in the club because I was doing it all of the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember your very first tournament you ever entered?
I sure do.
How'd that go? Talk about that a little.
Yeah, sure. It went okay. Everybody wants to be the person that gets the medal in sparring, but I was the guy that was getting the medal in patterns. Okay. So it was good because I had some gold medals, but my focus was, I didn't want to be bullied. I wanted to learn how to fight. I wanted to learn how to defend myself. I wanted to be a Power Ranger, right? I actually wanted to join them. I was waiting for Zordon. Still hasn't called me yet. So I was making sure that, I guess the focus was always the sparring, but you can't spar by yourself.
Right.
You can do patterns by yourself, right? So I spent a lot of time working the patterns, and I still believe that if you did patterns, that would be a direct correlation to fighting capacity. And then I realized in tournaments and then later on in my more aggressive years that isn't necessarily the case.
Right. And did you ever do, or did the tournaments even have this as an option, but did you do breaking? Did you do weapons? What were some of the other options you had, and did you do any of those?
I didn't do any weapons because because the system we were in wouldn't do weapons till black belt, and I never did any black belt competitions.
Okay.
But for breaking, yeah, I was the fat kid, so I broke the cement, right? That was my job.
Okay. So thinking back, what are some things that stood out about that specific instructor? What do you remember about like the way he taught class and some things that you really remember? Since you obviously it made an impact because you're still friends with him. So
yeah, absolutely. We're having this weird switch now where he has a full-time job and this is my full-time job, right? So we have like a little bit of a role reversal, which is uncomfortable, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just think he was very open-minded to kind of other stuff, right? Because I was very much that annoying student of, well, I read a book that said, well, I did this that said, and he would always weather those questions. He was very, like I said, he had my number. He knew how to like mitigate my childhood rage.
Yeah.
He knew how to get me moving. He motivated me for sure to do more than I ever thought I could. And I just think it was just nobody at that time had ever put that much faith in me. Nobody had ever invested time in me in the way that he did. And it's crazy now because he's only 4 years older than I am. But when he was there, like as the instructor, I thought he was like 1,000-year-old grandmaster, right? And now like at dinner, we're the same age effectively, but he was like a role model, right? And I mentioned I'm a very loyal person, right? Once I'm in, I'm in. So it just stayed because he was just such a great instructor and I enjoyed it. And I was getting better. Like you asked, did I lose weight? Absolutely. When I got serious into it, I went from I was a 300-pound kid. I was a big fella.
Wow.
And I'm still pretty big right now, but there's some muscle. There was no muscle back then.
Yeah.
And I went from that to by the time I was in my 20s, I was 185 pounds. So I dropped I dropped my wife's worth of I'm not going to say her weight, but I dropped quite a bit of weight.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get in trouble. She won't listen to this, but I definitely dropped a whole human being's worth of weight. So, and I attribute a lot of my success. I kind of give my success in public speaking and how I present to two different areas. Mm-hmm. Area one is definitely the tenets of Taekwondo, because while I do not think Taekwondo is the best art for self-defense.
Yeah.
There are lots of reasons to take martial arts that are not self-defense. Right. There's culture, there's fitness, there's mobility, there's community, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that. And then the other thing I equate my public speaking success to is being a forever DM in Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Yes. Okay. We're playing tomorrow night.
So I'm assuming then you're a Stranger Things fan?
I was until this last season, that's for sure.
Okay, nice. Yeah, my kids are all theater kids, and my daughter did a play 2 years ago, and the basis of the play was Dungeons and Dragons.
Cool.
She Kills Monsters. That was the name of it. If you've ever seen the play or not. But
I have not, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
I find it crazy culturally. We're kind of off topic now, but I just have to state it that if you would have told me that they were, because I don't know if you know this, but they have played Dungeons & Dragons live play in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I've heard that.
If you would have told me the thing that got me beaten up in my teen years would be super popular now, I never would have believed you.
I get that completely. It's funny you talked about the public speaking. That's kind of a little bit of my story was I grew up, I was the shyest kid in my school. I would not get up in front of my class and do a book report or any kind of speech or anything. And it's my current Taekwondo instructor that I've been with 30 years. He kind of was the one who put me in that position, pushed me out of my comfort zone, got me to teach. I tell people, the short version is basically I showed up one night because I thought he was doing this instructor class to teach people how to teach. And he basically said, all right, class, Mr. Bryan's in charge. And he left. That was my first time teaching a class.
That is such an old school method of getting people good. Again, probably not approvable now, but very funny back in the day. I love that sort of stuff. It
worked. And working in radio, I used to get asked all the time to MC events. And I always said no. But after that, I started saying yes a few more times. And now I've been on stage in front of 5,000 people and it doesn't faze me in the least. So
that's amazing. And these are the things that I think, especially me, because I very much have painted myself into a corner of being the self-defense and combatives guy, right? That's on purpose.
Yep.
But I really want to state that people think I don't like traditional arts. I absolutely love them. I just don't think they do what they advertise all the time. That's it.
No, I get that completely. So then you obviously talked about, public speaking and stuff like that. So I'm assuming sometime at that school, you got involved in the teaching side of martial arts?
I did. Absolutely. The trick with me, everybody, I'm the reverse of you. The trick with me is to get me to stop talking. So when you chat as much as I do, people tend to make you MC and put you in a speaking role and that sort of stuff. So any chance I could, again, I was that annoying student. So I would be teaching even if they didn't want me to. So they decided to leverage it into something beneficial for the school.
And do you remember what belt you first helped teach at, assisted class, whatever it was for you?
Yeah, it was green belt, blue stripe.
Okay. I'm assuming that you just enjoyed it. I mean, you obviously kept doing it.
Yeah, but so like that's the thing is I didn't enjoy it then, and very much like me becoming an instructor was more by request than design, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because I was very much of those who can't teach thought process.
Yeah.
Like teaching was for old people, right? Like when you can't move your hips and when your shoulders messed up, then you start teaching. If you teach any younger than that, then you're just kind of pretending or whatever. And obviously life laughed in my face when I said that because I went the teaching route in like early 20s. So,
and I wasn't sure because I know that there's some schools that actually require teaching also as part of your black belt. So that's why I wasn't like mine doesn't do that, but I know others that do. So I wasn't sure if maybe it was a requirement or
no, I volunteered for sure. I wanted to try it out. And like, I'll say it straight up. If you are a martial arts instructor, any high level, you like attention. And I've always liked attention and being in charge of a class means you're getting the most attention. Yeah. So it worked very well for my personality type.
Nice. I like it. All right. So you said then at 19, you left Taekwondo. So was that, did you leave specifically to go find another style?
Yes, absolutely. So 19 is when I started bouncing. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. 18 is our legal drinking age here.
Okay.
So when I was 19, I was flipping burgers at Wendy's and was like, this is not for me. I wasn't very good at school because of just, most martial artists, we like to move around more than sit around. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't very good at school and I didn't want to go to university. And I had just found out I was colorblind, so I couldn't become a cop. And I was making some life decisions, like, what am I going to do? And a bar was like, hey, we need bouncers, a guy. And so this kind of is like a foreshadowing to what happens to me later in life. But a guy got stabbed there 6 times.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, they clearly have a job opening because I'm a 19-year-old man and obviously invincible. So I go and apply, and we're in the arts district of my city. It's called White Ave. You're not going to know that unless you're local, but that's where a lot of bars were at the time. It's connected to our university, which is one of the top 3 universities in the country. So lots of kids, lots of people, lots of partying, lots of work. And so I got the job, and they gave me the job because of my Taekwondo background. Right?
Okay.
Because again, this is 1999 or 2000. Nobody's fact checking any of that stuff. And I remember my first fight ever. Not only did I not win, I got beat up so bad by I say he's an old man. I'm sure I'm older than he was then. But in my eyes, he was like this old, smelly biker. And that's who he was. And I was like, I'm the Taekwondo champ, blah, blah, blah. I'm nationally ranked, yada, yada. And that guy just smiled and beat me up.
Wow.
So that was my first kind of, oh, wait a minute. Maybe what I've been taking isn't doing what I need it to do, because I literally walked into the job with, I have a Taekwondo black belt. I have all these trophies. Nobody can hurt me, right? I'm a Power Ranger effectively. Mm-hmm. And then real violence went, no, sir, that is not correct. And then I got beat up by an old out of shape man. And that kind of reframed my everything. As a young man, I had a bit of an anger problem, so I spent some time smashing trophies, and then I started looking for different arts.
Okay.
Something that would be more functional, something that wouldn't get me beat up. And again, it's not that Taekwondo isn't a valid art.
Right.
It's just, and again, I'm still friends with my instructor. It's just, it was sold differently to me. Like the range was not correct. The environment was not correct. I wasn't wearing my dobok, right? I was wearing jeans. So everything was different. And that's kind of what started me on the path towards this reality-based self-defense.
How many different arts did you look at and try out before you decided on the next one you were going to do?
So this is a great question. So I started with Muay Thai because I liked striking. I'm a striker. Like I do BJJ now, but like I say BJJ is like eating my vegetables. I know it's good for me, but I hate it. So I do like striking. And so I went into Muay Thai first because I wanted something with like a standing grappling range, because that's where I got tied up, right? The guy just got close and I only had long range tools at the time. I didn't have any mid to close range tools, like some hands attacks, but our system, you weren't allowed to do full contact to the face. So I was kind of pulling punches a little bit out of habit.
Okay.
And then, so then I went to Thai boxing, and then I started doing submission wrestling because of the job, right? Like the goal I had for Taekwondo originally no longer was the goal I had currently now for this new job as a bouncer, because I loved it, right? I loved being a bouncer. I got all the attention I needed. I was in shape. There was women everywhere. It was a great job, right? Free booze. It was amazing when you're in your late teens to early 20s.
Right.
So I wanted to keep doing that, but the tool set I had wasn't built for that, right? Nobody's like, oh, you're a bouncer? That's the Taekwondo system, right? That's not what it's for. And so I started looking for things that were more close range, more inside the pocket, kind of mid-range and clinch range. So I went into, like I mentioned, Thai boxing, and then I went into submission wrestling. And then 2 years into the job, I got stabbed. So I've been stabbed a couple of times. My joke is I've been stabbed 2.5 times. I've been stabbed once in the face by a Swiss Army knife. The big one where the guy tried to get my neck but got me in the leg when I was 22, 23 at the bar.
Wow.
And then I got stabbed once by a fork. So I say that's the 0.5. But the marketing guy in me wants to say I got stabbed 6 times, counting each prong on the fork.
Okay. Nice.
But so then that switched my thought process again, Brian, right? Yeah. So I went from, so pretty much what happened was I got good at the Thai boxing, the clinch work, and the rest. I'm like, okay, now I understand violence, right? I got this. And then some guy tried to kill me on a Wednesday night with a knife because we wouldn't let him in the bar. And then it reshaped my reality again. And as we go through kind of my timeline of becoming a martial arts instructor, this happens to me constantly. So many times I'm like, oh, I have the answers. And then I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about anything. And then I'm like, oh, now I got them. And then I don't know anything about anything.
Nice. Okay.
So got me into Filipino martial arts. Modern Arnis was my major one. I also went to the Philippines and trained for 2 months because if you're a martial arts movie fan like I am, you have to go to where the art is to be a real martial artist. Karate Kid 2. So went to the Philippines, started training there. And then from that point, I just became more of an eclectic artist. I moved into Krav Maga and kind of whatever was out there. And I became less about systems and more about what is going on in the system. What is the goal of the system? What are they trying to accomplish?
Okay. So when you were doing this, did you just go look for local schools, or were you doing research ahead of time and then looking for specific styles?
So I did both. I looked for things that I thought would have worked, but again, looked as in the library. It wasn't a Google search yet.
Yeah.
I looked for things that I thought would be more functional. I also asked around. I'm very big on like user survey. So I asked a bunch of bouncers that were really good. I'm like, what did you do? Like, oh, I wrestled, or oh, I did this, or oh, I did that. And pretty much consistently what came up was boxing, some kind of wrestling, or Thai boxing. And now that could be because I'm in Edmonton and we're a very striking based culture, but that's what seemed to pop up the most. And also we had one very good Wing Chun guy that used it in bouncing successfully, but I didn't take my risk there. Okay. So I started learning the things that people were, saying were best. And this also happened right kind of the same time UFC was starting to take off. Okay. Right? Like late 90s, early 2000s. And I mean like the Gracie run UFC, not the Dana White run. Yeah. So people were seeing things like, oh, jiu-jitsu and all these different styles. And people were kind of getting out of the thought process of, oh, what's my local gym, to specifically hunting for stuff. So I did find a gym in Edmonton that did offer everything I was looking for: wrestling, weapons, and Thai boxing. So I trained there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you still connected with that gym, or?
I am not, because I did some competitions with them, and the instructor was I'm doing air quotes, but this is only audio. He was a chi healer. And so he told me that when I got a really bad concussion in the tournaments, I did a flying guard. The guy I wrapped my legs around pretty much was like trying to move a structural beam. He was just some monster. And I'm not a little fella. And that guy just resisted me. And then he did like a hip break. And if your listeners know, you put the hands, like the fists on the hip, then you push down, which breaks the feet. And while he was doing that hip break, I was doing a crunch to grab his head. So I became like a whip. I went up, he pushed, and I cracked backwards, and my head hit the concrete just off of the mats. Damn. So I lost the competition, obviously. I was concussed, grade 2 concussion. And then the instructor was like, hey, you're fine. I checked your chi. And I believed him for some reason. And then I kept full contact sparring. So I currently have post-concussion syndrome. I had... the doctor said I had 11 severe concussions in the span of 90 days. Damn. Because I kept fighting, right? Yeah. And it's actually a really funny story, because I'm a hype you up kind of guy, right? I'm like, oh, you're good, let's go. And so we had this new kid join, and up until this point, I had never been knocked out. I've been knocked out a lot since, but I had never been knocked out. And this new kid comes up, and he hits me with like a hook I didn't see coming. Whether I was concussed or not doesn't matter. Still landed on my chin, and he knocked me unconscious. And then we actually gave this kid such a false sense of confidence, because I'm like, I've never been knocked out. You're like Mike Tyson power. This is crazy. Not, oh my God, I have a brain injury. So we like pumped this poor kid up so high. And then reality kind of showed him we were also wrong.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So then what was next after you left that school?
So that's when I started doing more stuff. I started doing kind of looking into Krav Maga. Like I was the first Krav Maga instructor in my city.
Okay.
That doesn't say a lot. I'm the most northern city in Canada. Like I can see Santa's house from here. But I was our first Krav gym. And that's just kind of then when like I kind of got my footing on how to fight in close quarters, right? So because I was a full-time bouncer at the time, I was working 6 days a week. The bar was very rough. It was a weird, eclectic mix of like, we had bikers, we had urban professionals, and we had rugby players and stuff from the university all kind of mingling in the same room, which that cross of culture definitely creates friction. So there was lots of fights is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And I started like, not because I'm exceptionally talented, not because I'm some kind of like messiah to martial arts, but just because of the volume of reps that I got in dealing with fights and like grappling situations, et cetera, et cetera. And to be clear, like dealing with the same kind of fight over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
A lot of instructors tend to think like, oh, because I was a bouncer, I could teach police. Nope. You could teach bouncers because you understand that thought process. So I was getting very good at that. And I kind of built a reputation of being known as like the martial arts guy.
Okay.
And so what happened was people started asking me to show them some stuff. And that's kind of where me teaching as a full-time gig sort of started.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher. Those who can't teach, come and train with me for free. But if you've ever run anything, free means nothing, right? So you can say free all day and nobody's going to show up. Even if you charge $1, the fact that it's $1 will make people show up more for some reason.
Exactly.
So I was doing it for free, but I was wasting my time because I was always showing up and nobody was showing up. And I'm like, well, I don't want my life to be around this. So I just started lightly charging like, I don't know, $10 a session or something. And then that's kind of where it started. We started getting bouncers training with me. And then those bouncers brought their girlfriends and their brothers and their cousins and that sort of stuff. And it just kind of started snowballing from there.
So were you like renting a space? Were you teaching out of like your garage? How did that start? What type of building were you first starting in?
It's a great question. So I was teaching in two places. I had my buddy's 2-car garage that I was teaching in.
Nice.
Not mine, his. And then also during the 5 seconds of summer we have up here, I taught outside at a park that's very famous here called Horlack Park.
Nice.
Which actually weirdly worked for our marketing because people would see what we were doing and come and talk to us. That wasn't the intent. And then eventually I did rent a like racquetball court because the gym was getting bigger and bigger.
Okay.
And then one day I looked and we had 10 people that were there all the time. And we had a guy trying the class out at the same time. We're in the park and my daughter, who's 17 now, so it was 17 years ago, she was in her car seat sitting on the grass while I was teaching. And I looked around and I've always been kind of a business minded guy. And I was like, hey, if all of you just paid me like $800 for a yearly rate, we could probably get a full-time space. And everybody said yes, including the person that was there for their first class.
Wow.
So all 11 people that night gave me $800 checks. And then we looked for our first full-time location.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was, again, like I said, it kind of just happened by happenstance. And I really started to enjoy teaching and seeing people get better. So then it became more motivational. And then also this kind of lines up with, I was also getting divorced. And I had a lot of extra time because I had my daughter week on, week off, right?
Yep.
And my bills were much lower because I was living in my buddy's basement. I'm like, well, if this is the time to open a business is right now when my overhead is nothing.
Yeah.
So it all kind of like formulated into like a perfect storm of opening up my first gym called KPC Martial Arts at the time, eventually self-defense.
Okay. And what type of building, like what size?
We rented great question, Jim. This is like the most I've talked about this. We rented a second floor space above a Greek store in the ghetto of Edmonton. Again, it's a Canadian ghetto, so calm down. It wasn't super dangerous, but it's still a ghetto. And in the building was lovingly called by the police Murder Hotel. So like, cause almost always the first murder of the year happened there. It was like kind of a sketchy recovery area. So the joke was always like, this school is really real because you have to use the stuff to come and leave class. Like it was not the best area, but we got it for, just price point.
Yeah.
Right? I have 10 students. Like I can't afford a warehouse bay like we have now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So think back to that first Taekwondo school when you first started teaching as like a green belt over all those years up to now. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over all the years?
Again, another great question. And I'm definitely using that to stall. It is. That's why I use that, right? Oh, great question. Give me time to think. The biggest takeaway I have as a coach is coaching is not about you, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was younger, it wasn't about them, it was about me, right? Am I remembering the technique right? Am I speaking properly? Are they listening? Do they respect me? That sort of stuff. And as I've evolved, like one of the things you'll hear me say almost ad nauseum is, who cares what I can do? It's about what I can get you to do.
Nice.
Right? So like, sure, maybe I can't, but maybe your instructor like a wheel kick off a wall. But if he can't get you to do that, it doesn't matter if they can do that, right?
Yeah.
So as my instruction moved forward, it went from like almost me forcing like, this is the way to do it, to opening up to more like, what do you need right now? And so what I say to people, I have like a model pyramid where I say skill is at the top. It's like the least important thing when it comes to a self-defense situation. Resiliency is more important. Strategy is more important. Giving yourself permission to act is much more important than actually being physically able to defend yourself. That sort of thought process kind of invaded everything. So what I tell people now is your goal dictates your technique selection, not vice versa.
Okay.
My teaching also does the same thing. So while I do teach techniques, we're not technique driven, we're goal driven. That's been the biggest shift, I think.
And are you still currently running a brick and mortar school or?
So yeah, I am again currently, yes, I'm in it right now.
Okay.
I had a gym, KPC Self-Defense shut down in 2021 during COVID, not because of COVID. My business partner decided he didn't want to run classes anymore. And I was traveling very heavily back then when I was allowed to.
Okay.
I was traveling very heavily. So we made the choice to shut down the gym and I would just travel. But I saw an opportunity to purchase a gym here in Edmonton, bigger than I've ever had. I have a team of instructors here now. So I am running the brick and mortar, but I still travel and teach more than anything else. Like I'm not running classes here or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did the seminars and the speaking and stuff, and when did that all kind of start for you? And as it sounds like a huge part of your life right now.
It is. It's the focus for sure. So speaking is relatively new. I'm moving more into the public speaking sector because the stuff that I teach, I'm very heavy on we call, I guess, soft skills is probably the easiest way to use it for the in-speak crowd.
Yeah.
But we call them proactive skills, things you do before a situation gets bad. Those are delivered a lot stronger through like presentation than they are through classes. And there is a higher price point for public speaking than there is martial arts seminars straight up.
Yeah.
So I always found that, like I say, education is accessible now while technique takes time. So if I only have you for a 3-hour seminar, for example, I really want to layer you with the educational stuff, the awareness, how to set a boundary, what to look for, threat assessment, and then give you some martial arts stuff because I know you're not going to practice it. I know that's going to degrade, but the educational stuff, you're going to be able to use that immediately because you now are looking at the world differently. So 2016 was when I read Rory Miller's book, Facing Violence.
Nice.
And that book literally shifted my view on how I taught. It was after I read that book, it was the first time I wrote a curriculum. I had never written a curriculum before. It was more like, hey, this is what I did and it worked for me. And this is how I do it. Do what I do. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, there's too much important data in here that I will forget.
Yeah.
That I need to write down, like build into a curriculum. And that's when we switched from KPC martial arts to KPC self-defense.
Okay.
And then we started teaching primarily self-defense stuff, right? So we had an MMA team. We dropped that. We didn't want to do that anymore. Okay. I am not a good ring person. I had a friend who, his name is Ryan, one more round Rother. He was our star. And I kept I got almost carpal tunnel by trying to throw the towel in. And he kept saying no, which is why we call him one more round. But I realized very quickly, if I see my friends getting hurt, I want to help them.
Yeah.
So I am not a good corner man to watch you lose. I'm going to break the rules. So I decided, hey, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this anymore. Even though the team was doing great, this isn't for Randy.
Right.
So we moved more to the self-defense side because I grew up, like I said, I grew up very poor. My childhood wasn't very storybooky. Like I had some bad stuff that happened. I talk about in the book that's coming out. But I wanted people to get the power that I got from martial arts, like the confidence, the ability to take up space in a room, the ability to set a boundary. Mm-hmm. And all that kind of came more through self-defense. So Rory's book kind of solidified the start of that. And so anyways, after I read that book, like I said, I don't do anything with half my butt. I use my whole butt always. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I got to meet this guy. Find out who he is, what he's doing, that sort of stuff. And then we ended up going to Minnesota where I met him, Mark McYoung, and Casey Kekheisen. And then very luckily, I started to get to train with him.
Okay.
Then that led me to really focusing on self-defense because have you had Rory on the show? Yes?
Yep. Yes.
There is no more. I think he's probably one of the strongest minds when it comes to self-defense or at least critical thinking on the planet.
Yeah.
I've spent 2 months in a car with the guy. We did a Rand Rory tour together, like Randory, but Rand Rory. That was
awesome.
The joke. And we went all over the US and we did Europe as well. And so I've got to pick his brain, but that was always where I wanted to go. And then I started we were bringing people in for self-defense seminars. And I was like, why aren't people bringing me in? I want to do that. That's the thing I want to do.
Okay.
And so then I just started working with it. So then I was lucky enough to be asked to join the Violence Dynamics team where I taught with Rory and I taught with Casey and I taught with Mark.
Okay.
And then I did that for a little while. And then we started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Again, because I have a little bit of business savvy, I started taking over a little bit of the marketing. We got invited so I started teaching across Canada and the US, right? Because those big conferences, Violence Dynamics for a while was one of the biggest conferences in self-defense.
Yeah.
We'd have 80 to 100 people show up.
Nice.
Some of those people were instructors who then asked us to do seminars at their gym. That's kind of how it started. And then I would say the big break that got me. So I always say, I never counted the US as international instruction because my dad was a border guard. I grew up on the border right before you had passports. I used to walk across and get stuff. My first beer was in Sweetgrass, Montana. So to me, it seems different now, but back then it didn't feel like a different country.
Yeah.
This was my first transatlantic trip. Violence Dynamics, the guy from Scotland came inviting me to Scotland and I taught in Scotland.
Wow.
It was really cool. Then I started kind of getting little bits of stuff in that area. And then the thing that I think was the real game changer, and I owe most of my success to Casey and Rory. And at this time, Tammy Yard-McCracken, who has been on the show before, you mentioned, she was also part of the team now. We all got invited to London by a Krav Maga group called KMG. And we ran a Violence Dynamics for 145 KMG instructors all over Europe.
Wow.
Luckily, I was on fire that day. I knocked it out of the park. And then that's when my touring really launched because they started booking me repeatedly. I'm actually looking to go back there here in the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm also sad that so many of my guests I've interviewed have been in Minnesota and that I didn't know it because that's where I am. So
we used to before. Things are different right now. But when crossing the border was less stressful for me.
Yeah.
We used to be down there all the time. Me and Casey's family would spend summers together. So when I heard you're in Minnesota, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. We used to literally every year be in Minnesota Violence Dynamics.
I know Tammy was telling me on the interview that they actually have a thing coming up in March down 30 miles from my hometown in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
That's right. The 500 Rising because St. Cloud PD really absorbed your program. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can maybe get down there and at least meet some of them. I don't know if I'll get to attend or not, but at least just say, hey, meet them in person. Be like, hey, how's it going?
Brian, I cannot stress enough. And I'm not, there's no check coming for this promotion right now. I have done both levels of the 500 Rising. We brought her to Edmonton because I wanted my daughter to take it. I've taken a lot of courses. Tammy knocks this out of the park. It is the best. It is the best course for the proactive side, for the realism of it. It's phenomenal. Don't tell her I said any of this, but it is phenomenal.
I'm hoping. I told her that I want to help her try to get one up in. I live right across from Fargo, North Dakota. I'm in Moorhead, Minnesota, and I told her I want to help her get one in Fargo, and she said she might have some connections here, so I'm going to hopefully reach out to her again after her episode comes out, and because I'd love it for my daughter to do it too, but I know my daughter can't miss 5 days of work to go down and sit through a 5-day seminar. I wish she could, but if I can get one locally, we can hopefully make it happen. We'll see. But
her seminar is only 3 days, but you're right.
3 days. Okay. Yeah. So over your martial arts career, is there a favorite weapon that, you've done some weapon stuff? Is there a favorite one that you've trained with?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm very lucky. We have a upcoming dog brother that trains here at my gym. He's a former student of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been into kind of Southeast Asian arts. So Filipino martial arts, Salot, Modern Arnis, Lightning Scientific, Kali Illustrissimo, just the name drops. People know I'm not lying. And so when I went to the Philippines, I studied particularly Kali Illustrissimo under Tony Diego and under Mang Phil, I learned Lightning Scientific, which is like a power-based system.
Mm-hmm.
Because just the way my brain works, it's very hyperactive. I really enjoy double stick. It's fun for me. It replicates, it doesn't replicate in the way that Filipino martial arts says it does. Just for reference, everybody listening, I'm going to pick on all the arts equally. I'm not going to just pick on Taekwondo. But Filipino martial arts has this myth of the way you train the hand is the way you train the stick and it all translates. Not quite, but there is some overlap for sure.
Yeah.
And so I really like the double stick stuff, but I'm getting super into staff right now.
Oh, okay.
Because like the dog, I don't know how much you know about the Dog Brothers, but
Not
the
much.
Dog Brothers are a full contact style of Filipino martial art. They have one of the best brandings ever, which is higher consciousness through harder contact. So it's fencing helmets, reinforced lacrosse gloves. If you don't know what lacrosse is, like a stick-based ball art, famous in Canada. And you just beat each other up as hard as you can until somebody quits or 2 minutes is over.
That's awesome.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I cannot stress enough. They have gatherings. Our guy's done like 60 fights. He's going to Italy right now.
Wow.
But when it's full contact, the distance of a stick, like of a staff, feels real comfy, right? You can poke them away and hit them. Like, get away from me, psycho. Like, I can see why the spear is superior to the sword now.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And a little earlier, you did mention the book, and I know Tammy talked about it a little bit too, and she was on. But talk about what got you into writing. What made you decide to write?
Again, we're gonna mention the all-powerful Rory Miller here.
Okay.
I like to say that writers are like vampires trying to spread their curse. So I do not identify as a writer. Number one, I'm not good at it. My spelling is atrocious. If my English teacher heard I have a book coming out, she'd roll over in her grave for sure.
Okay.
But so I have two books technically. One is self-published that's already out, and then I have one that's coming out through Rory's publisher, YMAA. So the first book was called Selling Out to Your Level of Comfort, and it was a book about how to run a martial arts business. You can get it on Amazon right now if anybody's interested. You don't have to. This isn't a plug. But it's just a really simple way to run a martial arts school because I did it differently than other people did. Like, I've never run a kids class in my courses or gyms. And I don't do like, black belt club and that sort of stuff. I just taught adult self-defense and had 125 members. So Rory was always shocked. He's like, how do you do this? You're not doing what the industry says you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to, have kids classes and this and charge for that. I'm like, I think that stuff is dumb. I don't like it. I'm not saying it is, in my opinion. It's just not what I want to do. And so I just kind of wrote down how I ran my business and made it a book. And I mostly wrote it so people would stop asking me the same 5 questions. So it's more of a like time management tool than it is a profit center, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yep.
Because I was becoming known as a business guy, which is not what I want to be known as.
Yeah.
But after I wrote the book, as soon as you write a book, people treat writing a book like climbing a mountain. It's like this huge accomplishment. And I'm not saying it's not, but like that book, I literally audio recorded and paid somebody to type it out. So, but the book, it has 5 worksheets in it that really help people. Cause like martial artists are not business people by nature. I'm kind of a weird Venn diagram. Most people open a martial arts gym because they want to spread the art, but then they end up spending all their time on marketing and retention, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So the book was like, here's how pay-per-click works. Here's how the internet works. Here's how this works. And what I ask people to do now, if they ask me for business advice, I say, have you filled out the 5 sheets? Because the 5 worksheets are the most basic questions I hear all the time. Once you've answered those questions, then I can have an interesting conversation. So I'm not going to repeat the same thing. So I used it more as a tool. That was really, it was because, of course, the one I didn't try on was super successful.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought it, and a lot of people that know me equate a lot of their success to the book. And also, Brian, book is it's a pamphlet. It's a strong word for a book. It's like maybe 120 pages.
Okay.
Yeah. But so that's my first one. It's on Amazon. And the reason I wrote the second book, it took me a long time to write it because I didn't want to just put stuff out there and just attach my name to it if I didn't have something interesting or unique to say. Right. And like Rory has been my mentor. And so much of my thought process is Rory's, so much to the point that I have quoted Rory Miller to Rory Miller. Like, because that's just the way that it's just such a core way that I think now because I've spent so much time with them and I look up to him so heavily. And so I was like, well, I don't need to write these books. Rory already wrote these books, but I am very blessed. We talked about being blessed and lucky earlier, but I'm very blessed with my client base. I would argue I have the widest client base of almost any other full-time instructor. I teach literally the whole spectrum of humanity within my reach, right? Whether you are in a halfway house recovering, whether you are in a transition space because you're abused by a partner, whether you are law enforcement or a CEO or first, like I teach everybody because these are universal concepts.
Yeah.
Because of my diverse client base, I do now have unique, or at least different takes on what self-defense is, how it works, et cetera, et cetera. So I finally was like, I do think I have enough here for a book. And I decided to try to write one. And I was going to self-publish it, but again, my friend Rory Miller exists, and I ended up getting a book deal through YMAA.
And then what about the podcast? Talk about that. What made you decide to do a podcast and jump into that world?
I have been doing podcasts forever. I think it's a great medium. We had a podcast forever ago called Talking to Savages.
Okay.
And it was me and my buddy, one more round, Ryan Rother. And we just got drunk and yelled at martial arts instructors because it wasn't serious, right?
That's awesome.
And I was my most popular show by far.
Yeah.
We would just go and chat and talk. And I travel a lot. I'm a social guy. So I have a lot of connections in the space. So I figured, why not use this? And I saw it as a marketing opportunity. And then that show had to end. The name Talking to Savages isn't really great right now. We meant savage like Jim Savage, like, oh, that guy's savage. He works out. But that's not how it was interpreted. Also, because we were drinking on it, I pissed some friends off. I pissed Tammy off once. So I pissed some friends off doing it. So we decided to shift, and then I went heavily into podcasts. I've done a couple. Why I'm doing this new one, there's no mouse in my pocket, there's no we. Why I'm doing this new one is it's a direct link to the book. So the book that is coming out through YMAA is called The Timeline of Self-Defense Before, During, and After Violence. Mm-hmm. It's my entire model, and it's basically all of my courses kind of condensed into one model, so you can use it to do whatever. Okay. The goal pretty much for me is, hey, I don't care what art you take. If you just read this book, you can take whatever style you want, because this is all the information you need for self-defense. Okay. The podcast is kind of like a living document on me working on the second edition. Yeah. So the podcast is, we're going to take one of the segments either before, during, and after. We're going to talk to a guest about those things. They're going to give me their insight. And if I like it, then it gets added to version 2 of the book. So it's taking the people ideally who buy the book eventually through the journey of like seeing that I keep researching, right? Like this isn't, while books are, they're kind of dead. They're not living documents. Yeah. I'm not done learning. I'm only 45, right? Right. So now that we have this base, what other people could make it stronger?
Okay. And how often are you doing episodes?
Great question. So I was doing them weekly, but it's starting up again here in the next 2 weeks. I had to change my format and stuff. I went a little too ambitious on the last one. So we're changing the format up. We're kind of bringing in more fun. I think a lot of people have news fatigue right now from what's going on. So we're going more to like the Talking to Savages fun concept. Not that I'm going to get drunk on air anymore, but more of the fun concept where we're going to have like games and icebreaker questions and talk to people and that sort of stuff. Okay. So ideally it should be out February 1st will be the first episode. Well, I guess episode 13. So we're going to continue, but with a new format.
And is it audio, video?
It's both audio and video. I have a YouTube channel for sure. So we just double down.
Very cool. I like it. I'll put a link for all the stuff when this episode comes out. So I love promoting other podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I like podcasting. This is one of my favorite things, just to have a conversation with somebody cool, even though I'm very much dominating the conversation, Brian, I'm sorry.
That's the point.
I guess, but I do like having these conversations, right? Because you're always going to learn something new. And especially when it comes to self-defense is deeply personal. Yeah. Right. What you need to defend yourself against is not what I need to defend myself against. And what you need to invest your time in is different than me. Right. Right. So with these conversations and so many different point of views, I think you're going to get the realist picture of self-defense. Agreed. Which is, it's dependent on you and your goals. If you live in Namibia versus France, you're going to have different goals. Right. If you are a man versus a woman, you're going to have different goals. Yeah. Too many people are like, this is the one magic trick that you need to defend yourself. All that stuff is garbage. And my goal is to kind of break those myths and show like everything is contextual when it comes to this stuff. And it's a system, not a technique that's going to help you keep yourself safe. Nice. And I think podcasting is a great way to show other people's thought process in that.
I like it. That's good. All right. So over your martial arts journey, is there one philosophy that's at the top of your list?
So I differentiate martial arts from self-defense pretty hard. Okay. Can I answer that twice?
Definitely.
Okay. So for what dominates my martial arts, I guess, philosophy is there is no incorrect technique. There is only incorrect situations. So I can train with anybody. If you tell me like, oh, this art is crap, I can go that art and be like, oh, I really like this and this and this and this. Right? Yeah. Just because it's not effective for what they're showing doesn't mean what they're doing isn't effective. Right. So I like to keep that. One of my greatest teaching tools I talk about, I actually got from one of the most McDojo-y artists I've ever seen in my life. His presentation was terrible, but his first 15 minutes of the conversation was actually genius. He just didn't know it. It was really, really smart. I'm like, well, I'm taking that. I'm not using it that way, but I'm taking that. Nice. And I think that that's where people get lost, right? Is like, oh, this is the best thing for this, or this is the best thing for that. And that's not always true. It's just, what is your goal set? So as a martial artist, I think that it's good to keep your mind open to other arts, because just because it doesn't look like it makes sense to you doesn't mean there isn't a place where that was important. I make the joke in our system, I'm ITF Taekwondo International, There's this move in one of our black belt patterns where it's called hands to heaven. So you bring your hands above your head in like a reading rainbow type of motion. So you go up and then off to the sides, and then you throw a crescent kick to the outside.
Okay.
Now, when I was younger, I'm like, this is stupid. Why would you ever do this? What is this for? Then my instructor said, the point of this is if a man is on horseback coming at you, your hand knocks the weapon away and then your kick kicks him off the horse.
Okay.
I'm like, that's really cool and makes sense. Not a lot of horsemen in my neighborhood. So do I need to learn this for self-defense, right?
I mean, you do have Canadian Mounties up there, so you could encounter a horseback person.
I don't want to take those guys, though. That's repercussions. They're our FBI. So on that, like, just go and do the art and understand that you can look through your own lens and find out what works where.
Right.
My view on self-defense, I already stated, which is the goal is the most important thing. Why are you doing this and what are you protecting yourself from, right? Mm-hmm. Are you here because you are a human with children and you're worried about, somebody harassing your kid? That's going to be a different talk than, hey, I just joined the police force. What do I have to do? Right. So I think with the self-defense side, my biggest philosophy is, what is your goal? Like, even when people message me, there was a lady that got attacked here, a real estate agent. So a lot of real estate agents are messaging me right now. And I asked them, like, well, what is the goal of this seminar? Well, I want to be safe. You can be safe by never leaving your house. Done. Why self-defense, right? And I don't think people think about this enough. And I think that's why charlatans get away with taking people's money.
Agreed. All right. How about a worst martial arts related injury?
Well, post-concussion syndrome is not lovely for sure.
Yeah.
I'm one of those, like, I'm 45, but like, it's not the age, it's the mileage, right?
Yeah.
I think I definitely think it is the post-concussion syndrome.
Yeah.
Because even though I do like to chat, I have more trouble. I'm slower than I was, right? Like, my brain never came back to its full state. It's much better now. But I think that's probably the worst of it. And then obviously, like, that's martial arts related, and then real life related. The stabbing was bad, but I also got dragged by a car for 3 blocks once.
Dang.
That was really bad. That was a bad one. I was punching a guy through the window, and he, for some unknown, crazy John Wick reason, his buddy was like, wrap your seatbelt around his arm. So I was punching. This guy literally John Wicks me, puts the seatbelt around my arm and then hits the gas.
Wow.
So I snap my right shoulder dislocates. I'm acting it out, but you can't see. My right shoulder dislocates, and he drags me, and then he takes a corner. And then as I take the corner, my arm gets free. Jeez. So that was pretty crazy.
Definitely a couple new ones I haven't had. So I like it.
But I think people need to understand that Edmonton is an oil town.
Yeah.
So people had money, and when you're 18 and you make $200,000 a year, you're probably not making the best choices with your recreation.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts then on MMA? I know you talked a little bit about it earlier. Are you a fan? Do you watch it?
Yeah, I love it. I love MMA. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's a game changer. I think, and like everything, it's a little bit oversold for what it does, but I'm also not one of those combative self-defense guys like, well, if they took my system, they would win faster. Like, that's not where I'm at. I think mixed martial arts is getting a doctorate in fighting, right? Most people don't need that. They need a first aid course. Right. So I think it's important. And the philosophy, I've actually stolen this from a friend of mine that passed, Kalen Payne, rest in peace, Kalen. His philosophy was, you take a self-defense course, and then once you do it long enough, self-defense, the questions become mixed martial arts questions. So once you get that level, you then make your defensive system mixed martial arts because it takes longer. So first you get a base in self-defense, and then once you train long enough, then you do the more advanced stuff. And then that becomes your defensive system.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview.
Okay, sure.
Just talking about MMA. So if you were going to step into that cage, what would your MMA walk-up music be? What song's playing as you're taking that walk towards the cage?
What a good question. You think I would have thought of this? You know what? Honestly, Avenged Sevenfold, Hail to the King just makes sense for my last name, I think.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably going to be it. It would definitely be some kind of screamo punk thing. So I would, Avenged Sevenfold, Hail to the King is my first one. That or Metallica, King Nothing. Either one of those I think would work really well.
I like it. All right. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you would have put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Martial arts.
And you can include, self-defense, MMA, everything, anything goes there. I've had people put, boxers and everything. So
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go like each different area. I'm going to put Roberto Durand, the boxer, on there. His grappling punching style is one of the coolest, most unique things I've ever seen. And I've stolen and adapted a lot of it from my dirty boxing program. And it works really, really well, I think. But of course, if it didn't work well, I wouldn't teach it. I'm going to put Miller up there. I think I really do. Like, I know it sounds like I'm really just like trying to make out with him, but he's phenomenal. And again, don't ever tell him I said this because it will be unbearable. But I don't think he's going to listen. So, but I would put him up there. I don't know if you've experienced this, Brian, but there's a certain points where instructors kind of stop learning and they just think they know everything. And even if new stuff has come up, like, no, that's not the way you do it. I think every instructor goes through the point where they're like, I'm kind of done learning. Rory is the best one I've ever seen manage that.
Nice.
He's still willing to be challenged. He's still willing to do stuff. He's still willing to be refined, as opposed to being like, oh, I've already done everything. I know everything.
Yeah.
I got to put George St. Pierre, because I'm Canadian, up on that wall for mixed martial artists for two reasons. One, a couple of reasons. One, I've got to train with him. So that was cool.
Nice.
But also, he just like, I miss the age of the humble mixed martial artist. Like, I know McGregor's cell. I get it. But like, I miss the Anderson Silvas and the George St. Pierres, right? I would also put Anderson or George. I don't know who I'd put up there. Right. I love both of those guys. Anderson just doing that knockout, the Jake Paul fight was pretty impressive.
Yes.
And that leaves me one person, for martial artists. You know what? I'm gonna put Michael Jai White up there too.
Nice.
I think Michael Jai White, like, he's just good and he's an actor. Yeah. So Roberto Durand, Miller, George St. Pierre, Michael Jai White.
I like it. Cool. All right. How about you probably already answered this, but how about a favorite martial arts book?
Sure. Well, Miller's book isn't my favorite.
Okay.
So I'm annoying in the way that, like, I like to learn something and then I want to read everything that counters my opinion on it.
Nice.
So while I subscribe to the Miller thought process and stuff, Hochheim's Fighting Words is a totally different take on the same stuff that we do.
Okay.
And Hawk is an independent thinker, and I don't agree with anybody's everything anyways, or what's the point of, I'm redundant if I agree with somebody's everything. But Hawk comes at things in a different way that I think a lot of people don't understand. Obviously, like Gift of Fear, all that stuff's very important, but like for a unique pick and maybe something you haven't heard of, Fighting Words by Hochheim is very interesting, especially his take on like Hick's Law, which I agree with, and his take on adrenalization. Very interesting.
Okay. I'll have to add that. I don't think I've read that one. I'll have to add that to my list. All right. How about a favorite martial arts video game?
Oh, you're really scratching at my dork here. So me and my daughter have put probably, I would never want to admit how many hours into the Street Fighter series. I love Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I think I'm a Ken main. I know it's weird. Everybody's a Ryu main, but I like Ken Masters. I think he's my guy. But I think, for martial arts, that's definitely my favorite fighting game. And then for like more combative-y, Metal Gear Solid, I think was really pretty cool too.
Okay. And are you excited about the new Street Fighter movie coming out?
I am, but like, I like to like stuff. I'm not like very critical of media.
Okay.
Right. Even though I kind of said Stranger Things was bad, but that was like overtly bad. I think that the Street Fighter, like the casting, they look like them. I think they know what they're doing. Like, I think they know that this is a silly thing and they're going to make it silly. So I think it's going to be really, really fun. But also, like, you do not want to come to me for like critical takes because I just like to like stuff.
Okay. No worries. All right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
Oh, I want to say Walker, Texas Ranger.
Nice.
That's an older one. There's so many good ones. Warrior was phenomenal.
So good.
So good. The choreography. But I got to say the Power Rangers, man. Nice. It's what started me off here, right? And I made my daughter watch all of them too. So I think it's Power Rangers.
And I'm assuming I was just going to say the original. Okay.
Mighty Morphin for sure. And then I think maybe Zeo.
Okay.
I don't want to get too dorky. There's other ones, but and Space Force is okay.
That's okay. All right. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
Okay, so I'm gonna get some flack on here. I watched Bloodsport 850 times. Like it's
a great movie.
It's fake. Yeah. I know that Frank Dukes is a liar, all that sort of stuff, but it is a good movie. Yeah. And I think it was it was seminal for me, right? It was, this is what you could accomplish. Even though it was fake, it was still inspirational.
Yeah.
So I definitely go back to that. But I would say the martial arts movie I've watched the most is probably Never Back Down 2 with Michael Jai White and Scott Adkins.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. I love that movie.
I just watched that about 4 months ago. So I think Bloodsport I watch like once a year. So
Yeah, me too. There's like a rotation. Like I have because we bring a lot of people up here and I'm like a very host kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I have like my Apple library is like, oh, have you seen Black Dynamite? You got to watch this. Oh, have you seen The Last Dragon? You got to watch like all like the classic old ones.
Yep. I see mine are the ones that I watch every year are Bloodsport, Best of the Best, Karate Kid, Perfect Weapon, Only the Strong. Yeah. The Last Dragon, obviously, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
So,
you know what, Brian? I'm sorry. I'm going to change my answer entirely. Honestly, my favorite martial arts movie of all time is The Raid.
oh, nice.
Yeah, like I've watched that movie 150 times for sure. Like, and I don't like I was over exaggerating Bloodsport. I don't think I'm over exaggerating here.
Okay.
I remember I went to the theater and I was training pretty active back then, and I saw Iko Inoue like hit the bag, and I'm like eating popcorn. I'm like, I suck. This is amazing. And just like the combination, Salot looked beautiful on camera.
Yeah.
But the way they use the weapons and the environment, I think are the most unique way I've ever seen it.
Nice. I like it. I haven't watched that in a long time. I need to rewatch that movie. I love it.
Well, it's amazing. It's like, 2 seconds of love story and then just mayhem for the rest of it.
How a good movie should be.
I agree. It's
like they ruin it with a love story. Come on.
Exactly. Who cares? I guess she's pregnant. Great. Go kill some guy.
There you go. All right. Final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, a favorite movie fight scene.
Okay. My brain just went into strobe mode here. There's so many
There's a lot of them.
There is, I think okay. Have you seen Extraction 2?
Yes.
Extraction 2, where he does the finger rip, like down the middle of the hand, is one of the most visceral, memorable scenes I've ever seen. I think that was just really cool because I like that gritty. That's why I like The Raid. I like that gritty, like, hey, you can't just be in a fight and then go pick up the hot girl after. Like, you're going to get messed up.
Of course.
And so I like that fight scene. I don't know if it's the best ever, but it's really standing out in my head as like a graphic scene, but also the Chuck Norris versus Bruce Lee fight where he grabs his chest hair. Also just sticking out for me.
That's a good one. I just thought of one more question I have to ask you since you were a bouncer for so long. Are you a fan of Roadhouse? The original.
The new one or the old one?
The original.
Yeah, I am. You know what? Like Dalton saying you got to be nice till it's time not to be nice is something I quote like consistently.
Yes.
And there was very much for a lot of my life the joke of, are you just cosplaying Roadhouse, Randy? Is that your goal here? So I think Roadhouse was great. Obviously it gets a little crazy when he's, taking on the mayor with Tai Chi or whatever. But I know I do really enjoy that movie. It's not as much as I think a lot of other bouncers do. But again, I was born in 1981, so I kind of missed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was something
I saw it in theater, so.
Yeah. Oh, see I did not.
Yeah.
It was very much like I became a bouncer and then somebody told me to watch Roadhouse. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, before I let you go, is there anything I forgot to ask you? We forgot to mention, you just want to get out there, last minute parting words before we wrap it up?
I don't know. I feel like I talked a lot here.
You did? That's good. It makes my job easier.
Perfect. Like I said, getting me to stop is the trick. No, I think that's everything. We've talked about like all the stuff. If people want to, I don't know if there's a promo train that's coming up here that I should do, or if you want me to do that right now.
No, like I said, I'll put when it comes out, I'll put links for everything that you want me to. You just send me that ahead of time, but and when it comes out, I'll promote the hell out of it. So.
But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about. I just want people to know, like, hey, if you want to reach out, you want to ask questions, like I love having these conversations. Feel free to get a hold of me. It's very easy to find me. My name is Randy King, and my brand is Randy King Live. I love my own name. So you can just type that in anywhere and find me for questions or whatever.
Seriously, man, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad Tammy gave me your name, and I think the listeners are really going to get a kick out of this episode.
Okay, good. I hope so, because I've had more coffee today than I have had in a while. So as long as it was okay, I'm happy with that.
That's awesome, man. Seriously, I truly appreciate it. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate your time. Thank you for inviting me.
Wrap up today's episode by taking your own training to the next level with Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, the book that's redefining martial arts thinking. Find Martial Theory on Amazon today. Join the worldwide movement at martialtheoryu.com, where you'll find Q&A sessions, live events, and direct guidance from Steve himself. Use code EverydayMA for 20% off for life. That's martialtheoryu.com, code EverydayMA. Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.